Right, so it is that time. Let's talk a little bit about what are we going to be doing as we look ahead to the coming weeks. And what I'm going to say this morning actually applies for our Sunday services and indeed for other groups that we run as a church here on site as a building. We've tried to put together a plan of action for the coming weeks for all the things that we do here as a church. And that's what deacons have discussed this past week. And this is what we've come to. So here we go. Now, just to outline the situation, how things have changed. So wider nationally, we've gone from a situation where there were things that were mandated in law or were strongly advised against or for, to those legal restrictions being released. And what has essentially been said is that for each church and indeed each business and company and shop and things like that, they therefore have to take away the guidance that they've been given and make decisions about what is best for them in their circumstances. And it's not that all restrictions have just suddenly gone out the window. That's not the point at all. It's just that we have to now manage the risk ourselves, which, of course, as you can imagine, presents some challenges. And every church is likely to be doing something slightly different anyway. But we've looked at the government guidance, we've looked at the Baptist Union guidance to help us make these decisions, and this is where we've come to. A couple of verses, first of all, just to guide our thinking on this. First, 1 Corinthians 10:23, we read these words: I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. Now, that's an important principle. The Apostle Paul, when he wrote that a couple of thousand years ago, I don't think he was thinking about a global pandemic. But I think we can agree that what he says is very appropriate, and very appropriate for life as a Christian as well. And what he's basically saying is anything we do or any way we act should be in consideration of others, first of all, and their good, not just doing it because we can. It's an important principle. And so we expect people, as we go into this new stage, to that phrase there at the bottom of the screen, be safe and also be kind. Now, I must admit, that was not my slogan. I may have borrowed it from another local church website, possibly, because I liked it so much. Thank you, Citygate. But I think it's very appropriate for what we've got going forwards here as a church as well. We don't do something that makes someone else uncomfortable. It's for the good of others and not just the good of ourselves. And then another verse that's really important, I think, is this one. Be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Really important about our attitudes in this as well. You know, whether you agree or disagree with everything that I'm going to say in just a few moments, that verse is really important for us. We have to be patient with one another, humble and gentle, not with an attitude of, I will just do whatever I want. It's a case of, no, let's go forward in unity together, being gracious, being kind, being safe with one another. So, that all being said, what are we going to do then? Well, let's have the first one up there. So face coverings, which have to this point been mandatory, are going to become encouraged and recommended for use on site, and that covers all of our groups and activities, but no longer mandatory. Okay, so I will be wearing one on a Sunday, and for when I visit groups and things, I will be continuing with that. We're encouraging, recommending it for use on site, but it is no longer going to be mandatory. A reminder, though, that they are there primarily for the good of other people, more so than the good of personal self. They're to protect others more so than necessarily to protect ourselves. Next one. We are asking people to keep a general 1 meter distance wherever possible, okay? Again, it's not something mandatory and you've got to do it absolutely, but we're just saying, just keep a distance from people, just a basic 1 meter distance, as has been, somewhat the case anyway, a distance in the past number of months, 1 meter distance generally. Next one. We are going to be keeping on Sundays the pew gap, so there will still be a space in front of you and behind you, okay, if you come here on a Sunday. But booking is no longer required, and you can sit next to other if you mutually agree that. So you shouldn't just do it, but if you mutually agree, and we still ask for that 1 meter distance, all of our pews, it's possible to do that on between households. But you will also be able to indicate if you don't want someone to sit next to you. And the way we're going to do that, you can pick up one of these at the door. We've got a please leave this space free. You can just pop on the pew next to you, so that if you don't want someone sitting next to you, you can keep it there, okay? And people will hopefully see that and respect your wishes. And we're also going to reserve a few seats for those who might be particularly cautious, just off on the side pews. We're just going to reserve a few seats for any who might be particularly cautious about coming back. Maybe they're worried about being in an extremely vulnerable category or something like that, and they just want to sit a bit further away. We're going to reserve a few of the side pews for that purpose. Next. Singing will be permitted again. A long time that's not been the case, but we are going to permit singing. I almost said sinning there. But we're going to permit singing with face coverings again wherever possible. And I've put the words there, don't go wild. What I basically mean is just keep levels to low to moderate for singing. Part of the reason it wasn't permitted was because of the projection of droplets and things like that through the air. So just keep it, low to moderate and respect each other. Don't worry people by coming in and singing really, really loudly or anything like that. Next one. Please use hand sanitizer on entrance and wash hands regularly whilst on site. We've been doing that throughout anyway. That's going to continue. Next one. Please continue to make use of the NHS test and trace QR code and all the forms. We continue to encourage that. Again, it's not mandatory, but we encourage that as a way to protect one another again and follow that procedure through. And we also just put on there as well, anyone again with a high temperature, new persistent cough or loss or change of taste or smell must not enter the building. If you've got those, follow government advice, stay at home, go and get a test, so isolate and get a test, but please do not enter the building and come along. And as COVID symptoms are varying, we're also encouraging anyone who is just generally feeling unwell, who's under the weather, to avoid entering the building as well. Just as an example of this, and he's given me permission to share this, one of our deacons, Les, he's not here today and he wasn't here last Sunday because last weekend he in fact tested positive. Now, it didn't affect anything to do with church from the previous weekend before that at all. It was well beyond the time frame. But on the Friday, he got symptoms that he thought were hay fever-ish. On the Saturday, got a sore throat and began feeling under the weather. Said he wasn't going to come to church anyway. Had the test and it turned out to be positive because the symptoms, there are different symptoms involved. So we're just saying, anyone who is feeling unwell, please just avoid coming along. Don't worry people by coming along if you are feeling unwell. And then the last one for this point, keep personal touch to a minimum and be respectful of others' space generally as well. So that's what we're doing from next week, okay? That's from next week. There are a few things that are going to be happening probably in coming weeks. We're not doing them yet, but these are just a few things that we're going to be reviewing. So the first one is refreshments after Sunday services. That won't start next week, but in coming weeks we'll let you know when that might be starting up once again. We are still going to be serving communion using the little pots that we've been using throughout, at least for the next few months, so that will carry on. And prayer team, we'll look to get a prayer team back going up again after a Sunday morning so people can receive prayer after the service. And also we're going to be reviewing our other ministries and groups that are not already back on site. We're going to review those for the autumn season and just see where we get to with a few of the other ministries that we're looking to restart once again. That's the slideshow. I hope that all makes sense. If you've got any questions about that, please let us know. Obviously, next week it said that you didn't have to book to come along, so you can come along without having booking. There's going to be no booking system from that point, okay? And we will see how things develop in the coming weeks, okay? We reserve the right to change any of this as we go along, depending upon the wider circumstances, and if anything changes from the guidance that we receive as well.